Behind the quiet walls of medieval villages, people searched for comfort in surprisingly ordinary ways as long evenings settled across cold fields and narrow stone roads. Warm herbal drinks rested beside fading fires, dried plants hung carefully from wooden beams, and calm healers prepared gentle mixtures beneath soft candlelight. The strange and little-known history of medieval relaxation was not loud or dramatic, but slow, practical, and deeply connected to everyday life after exhausting work and difficult travel. Throughout quiet taverns, peaceful gardens, smoky inns, and silent castle halls, simple herbs and calming scents became part of nightly routines shared by villagers, travelers, and healers alike. Beneath cool midnight skies and distant fading bells, the medieval world moved at a slower rhythm, where rest arrived softly through warmth, silence, and the steady comfort of familiar traditions carried through the dark and peaceful night. Chapter 1. Begin beside quiet candlelight, hearing soft footsteps through medieval hallways. Soft candlelight rested against the stone walls of a long medieval hallway. Small flames moved gently whenever a quiet draft passed beneath the wooden doors. The air carried the faint scent of melted wax, dry wood, and old cloth hanging near narrow windows. Slow footsteps echoed softly across the floor as servants carried folded blankets towards sleeping rooms. Their shoes brushed lightly against the cold stone, creating a calm and steady rhythm in the quiet evening. Beyond the hallways, the night sky remained dark and still above the roofs of the village below. Many people in medieval towns ended their evenings slowly after long hours of work. Farmers returned from distant fields with tired hands and dusty boots. Bakers cleaned flour from wooden counters while the last warm bread cooled beside dim ovens. Stable workers brushed horses quietly before covering them for the night. In small homes beside muddy roads, villagers gathered near weak fires and simple candlelight. Their evenings were calm and practical, filled with quiet routines that helped the body settle after difficult labor. Some villagers prepared warm herbal drinks before sleeping. These mixtures were often made from dried leaves, roots, flowers, and garden plants collected during warmer months. Simple wooden bowls rested beside iron pots hanging over low fires. Steam rose softly into dark rooms while tired hands stirred the warm liquid with carved spoons. The drinks were not prepared for excitement or celebration. Most people simply searched for comfort, warmth, and rest after cold evenings and heavy work. Gentle herbs were believed to calm the mind and ease sore muscles before sleep. Wooden tables stood unevenly across small homes lit by soft yellow candlelight. Clay cups warmed cold fingers while quiet conversations drifted through the rooms. The sounds remained low and peaceful. Chairs creaked softly whenever someone shifted their weight. Outside, distant wind moved across empty roads and narrow village paths. Dogs barked occasionally far away before silence returned again. The slow passing of nighttime hours brought comfort to people who expected another early morning. In certain villages, healers spent their evenings preparing mixtures from dried plants stored carefully in woven baskets. These healers were often older men or women who understood which herbs soothed headaches, eased pain, or encouraged deeper rest. Shelves inside their small homes held bundles of hanging plants drying slowly beside weak fires. Lavender, mint, fennel, and many other gentle herbs filled the rooms with earthy smells. Wooden spoons tapped softly against clay bowls while oils warmed near small flames. The process remained calm and careful. Nothing moved quickly in these quiet rooms. Healers often worked beside open windows where cool air entered softly from the dark streets outside. Candlelight reflected against jars filled with dried leaves and roots gathered from forests or gardens. Some mixtures were added to warm drinks while others were burned gently to create calming scents within homes. Many people believed these soft smells helped ease restless thoughts during difficult nights. Beyond the healer's home, evening markets slowly prepared to close beneath the darkening sky. Merchants gathered their remaining goods from wooden stalls while lanterns swayed gently overhead. Woven baskets filled with dried plants rested beside sacks of grain and folded cloth. Some travelers searched for calming herbs before continuing long journeys across rough roads between towns. Others simply paused beside the stalls to warm their hands near lantern fires while speaking quietly with local sellers. The market sounds remained soft and distant. Wooden wheels rolled slowly over uneven ground, while horses breathed heavily in the cold night air. Cloth coverings flapped lightly in the evening breeze. A few merchants counted small coins carefully before placing them into leather pouches. Nearby, simple bundles of herbs waited to be purchased by villagers, hoping for peaceful sleep or relief from aches after long days of labor. Inside small taverns near the market roads, tired travelers rested beside weak fireplaces and low wooden benches. The rooms were warm but quiet compared to busy daytime hours. Gentle murmuring drifted between groups sharing soup, bread, and warm drinks before sleeping. Smoke rose slowly toward dark ceiling beams blackened by years of fire. Candlelight flickered softly against mugs resting upon worn tables marked by scratches and stains from countless evenings. Some travelers carried stories from distant towns where certain herbs and drinks were used for relaxation or comfort during long winters. These conversations were never loud or dramatic. They moved slowly between pauses and soft laughter. Many people simply spoke about exhaustion, sore feet, cold weather, and difficult roads. Warm drinks remained popular because they helped people settle quietly before sleep. Tavern keepers often prepared mixtures using honey, herbs, and heated water to ease the discomfort of travel. Near the fireplace, cloaks dried slowly beside wooden boots covered with mud. Travelers stretched tired legs toward the warmth while staring silently into the soft orange glow of the fire. Outside the tavern windows, dark roads disappeared into empty countryside beneath pale moonlight. The peaceful stillness of the late hour made many conversations shorter and quieter as sleep slowly approached. Far from the village center, medieval gardens rested peacefully beneath the cool night sky. Small rows of herbs grew quietly behind wooden fences beside simple homes and monasteries. Mint leaves moved gently whenever cold wind crossed the gardens. Lavender released faint calming scents into the damp night air. Rosemary bushes stood dark and still beneath silver moonlight, shining softly across narrow stone paths. Gardeners often understood the value of these simple plants. Some herbs were used for cooking, while others were prepared for calming drinks or soft sleeping mixtures. During warmer months, leaves and flowers were collected carefully before drying inside quiet storage rooms. Bundles hung upside down from wooden beams while the scent slowly filled the air. Even during difficult times, these small gardens offered moments of peace and routine within busy medieval life. Inside larger castles, quiet evening music sometimes drifted through narrow stone corridors after long daytime duties ended. Soft string instruments played slowly within distant rooms, while servants carried candles from one chamber to another. Thick walls kept most sounds low and gentle. Curtains moved slightly beside narrow windows where cool air entered from dark courtyards below. Some nobles also relied on calming herbs during restless evenings. Heavy responsibilities, illness, or long winters often made sleep difficult inside large, cold castles. Simple herbal mixtures remained common across many levels of society. Warm drinks prepared before bed helped create moments of comfort within quiet private rooms lit only by candles and weak fireplaces. Servants moved carefully through the corridors, speaking softly while preparing blankets, water, and evening meals for the final hours before rest. Beyond castle walls, peaceful countryside paths stretched across fields hidden beneath darkness. Narrow dirt roads curved beside sleeping farms and silent trees. Moonlight rested faintly across patches of grass wet with cool night dew. The air felt calm and cold while distant owls called softly from faraway woods. Travelers walking these roads often searched for inns or safe places to rest before dawn arrived. The medieval world grew much quieter after nightfall. Without bright lights or crowded streets, most people settled indoors once darkness covered the land. Fires burned lower as conversations faded slowly into silence. Candle flames became smaller while tired villagers climbed into simple beds stuffed with straw or wool. Outside, the cold air carried only the faint sounds of distant animals and moving wind. In quiet churches and distant towers, bells sometimes rang softly through the night air to mark passing hours. Their slow sound traveled gently across sleeping villages and empty roads. The bells faded gradually into darkness while most homes remained still and silent beneath the calm sky. Fires dimmed into glowing embers. Candlelight disappeared room by room. Heavy wooden doors stayed closed against the cool night wind. The long evening finally settled into complete stillness. Stone hallways grew empty. Tavern conversations ended quietly. Herbal scents lingered faintly within dark rooms where sleeping villagers rested peacefully beneath thick blankets. Outside, moonlight remained pale across gardens, roads, rooftops, and silent fields. The calm rhythm of medieval nighttime continued slowly beneath the dark sky, while distant bells faded further into quiet darkness. Chapter 2. Imagine tired villagers sharing warm herbal drinks beside wooden tables. Night settled softly over the medieval village as weary workers finally stepped away from another long and demanding day. Thin clouds drifted quietly across the dark sky, while faint lantern light glowed through small cottage windows beside narrow dirt roads. Inside the homes, warmth slowly gathered around low fires, where villagers rested their tired bodies and allowed the steady calm of evening to replace the strain of daily labor. The wooden houses were simple and small, built carefully from rough timber, packed earth, and heavy beams darkened by smoke from many winters. Most rooms held only a few pieces of furniture, yet they carried a feeling of comfort shaped by routine and quiet familiarity. Small tables stood near the center of each room beside uneven stools and simple benches covered with folded cloth. Candles burned gently near the walls, their soft light reaching across clay cups, woven baskets, and sleeping cats curled beside the fire. After sunset, many villagers prepared warm herbal drinks as part of their nightly habits. These drinks were not rare or mysterious. They came from ordinary plants gathered carefully from nearby gardens, forest edges, or open fields during warmer seasons. Some herbs were dried slowly beneath shaded roofs, while others were hung upside down near kitchen fires until their leaves became crisp and fragrant. The process took patience and care, and many families passed this knowledge quietly from one generation to the next. A woman with rough hands and tired eyes lifted a small iron pot above glowing embers while warm water slowly heated inside. Beside her rested several cloth bundles filled with dried leaves and flowers tied carefully with string. She selected a few pieces gently, crushing them between her fingers before adding them to the steaming water. A calm, earthy scent drifted into the room as the mixture settled quietly beneath the weak firelight. Across the table, an older man loosened his heavy boots, while rubbing warmth back into stiff hands after hours spent repairing fences in cold wind. His shoulders lowered slowly as the scent filled the room. Nearby, two children sat wrapped in wool blankets, their sleepy eyes following the movement of steam rising from the pot. Outside, faint wind brushed against wooden walls while distant animals moved quietly through dark fields. Many medieval villagers believed certain herbs could calm restless thoughts, ease discomfort, or help tired bodies settle before sleep. The drinks themselves were often simple and mild, prepared more for comfort than for strong effects. Warmth mattered deeply during cold evenings, especially during long winters when damp air entered through cracks in walls and beneath wooden doors. A heated cup resting between cold fingers offered a steady feeling of peace after difficult work beneath snow or harsh wind. The sounds within these homes remained soft and slow. Wooden spoons tapped lightly against clay bowls, while firewood cracked gently inside stone hearths. Cloth brushed against benches whenever someone shifted position. Quiet conversations moved naturally between long pauses as exhaustion settled deeper into the room. Nobody hurried through these nighttime routines. Darkness outside encouraged stillness, and most villagers welcomed the calm that arrived after sunset. In some homes, bundles of mint hung from ceiling beams beside garlic and onions drying for future meals. Lavender rested inside woven baskets near sleeping areas because many believed its scent brought relaxation during uneasy nights. Chamomile flowers were stored carefully inside cloth bags tied with twine. Simple herbs like these appeared often in evening drinks, prepared for elderly family members or laborers returning home with sore muscles and aching backs. A young farmer leaned against the table while warming his hands around a clay cup filled with a mild herbal mixture prepared by his mother earlier that evening. The warmth spread slowly through his cold fingers as candlelight flickered softly across the room. Dirt still clung beneath his nails from hours spent turning wet soil beside the village fields. His breathing slowed while quiet conversation faded into comfortable silence. Beyond the cottages, the village itself remained peaceful beneath the late hour. Most streets were empty except for an occasional traveler walking slowly toward a nearby inn. Thin smoke drifted upward from chimneys while pale moonlight rested gently upon rooftops covered with straw and weathered wood. Somewhere in the distance, a horse shifted quietly inside a stable. Nearby dogs barked briefly before silence returned once more. Inside another small home near the edge of the village, several women sat together around a larger table preparing dried herbs for future evenings. Their hands moved slowly and carefully beneath warm lantern light as they separated leaves from stems and tied fresh bundles using thin strips of cloth. Gentle conversation filled the room while soft rain tapped against the roof overhead. The steady sound blended with the quiet scraping of wooden bowls across the table surface. Some villagers also visited local healers when sleeplessness or exhaustion became difficult to manage. These healers often kept shelves lined with clay jars filled with roots, flowers, seeds, and dried leaves gathered across nearby forests and hillsides. Their homes carried rich, earthy scents mixed with smoke from low fires burning day and night. Small lamps illuminated work tables where careful mixtures were prepared, slowly using stone mortars and carved wooden spoons. The healers understood that many people simply needed rest after lives filled with physical labor and cold weather. Medieval life demanded constant effort from sunrise until darkness returned. Farmers worked through changing seasons without pause. Bakers woke before dawn beside hot ovens. Blacksmiths spent hours near heavy heat and flying sparks. Shepherds crossed long hillsides beneath rain and winter frost. Evening herbal drinks became one small way to ease the body after such difficult days. Inside village inns, Travelers from distant towns occasionally shared stories about unusual plants or calming remedies discovered along trade roads and forest routes. Some mentioned herbs growing beside mountain paths, while others described dried flowers sold in larger city markets. These conversations remained quiet and thoughtful, carried softly between bowls of soup and pieces of dark bread. Most travelers sought nothing more than warmth, safety, and uninterrupted sleep before continuing their journeys. Near one tavern fireplace, an elderly traveler rested beneath a thick wool cloak while sipping a warm mixture prepared with herbs and honey. His face showed signs of many long roads crossed through changing seasons. Mud covered the edges of his boots, and cold air still lingered within the folds of his clothing. Yet the warmth of the fire and the steady comfort of the drink softened the weariness carried in his posture. The medieval world grew quieter as night deepened. Lanterns dimmed slowly inside homes while conversations became shorter and softer. Children fell asleep beneath heavy blankets stuffed with straw and wool. Fires lowered into glowing embers. Outside, narrow roads disappeared into darkness beneath silent skies filled with pale stars. Within these peaceful homes and taverns, herbal drinks continued to play a gentle role in nighttime life. They were part of ordinary routines built around warmth, rest, and calm after difficult labor. The plants themselves came from gardens, forests, and careful hands familiar with the slow rhythms of nature. Nothing about these evenings felt rushed or dramatic. They moved steadily and quietly, guided by simple habits repeated night after night across villages scattered throughout the medieval countryside. As the final hours of evening approached, the soft scent of herbs still lingered inside the quiet rooms. Candle flames became smaller beside sleeping families resting peacefully after another completed day. Wooden tables stood empty except for cooling cups and folded cloths left beside fading firelight. Beyond the windows, the dark village remained still beneath the calm night sky, while tired villagers drifted gradually into deep and gentle sleep. Chapter 3. Notice gentle evening markets carrying dried plants inside woven baskets. The quiet evening markets of medieval towns carried a slow and peaceful rhythm that gently settled tired minds after long working days. As the final light faded from the sky, merchants arranged their remaining goods beneath hanging lanterns, while cool evening air drifted softly through narrow streets lined with stone and timber buildings. The market ground felt uneven beneath worn boots, and the calm sound of distant footsteps blended quietly with low conversations between sellers and late visitors searching for simple comforts before night fully arrived. Woven baskets rested carefully upon wooden stalls filled with dried leaves, flowers, roots, and bundled herbs gathered from nearby hillsides, forests, and gardens. Their soft, earthy scents moved gently through the cool air, mixing with the smell of fresh, damp wool, burning firewood, and recently harvested vegetables stacked beside crates of onions and turnips. Lantern flames swayed lightly whenever a breeze passed through the open market square, creating warm pools of golden light against darkening stone roads. Many villagers visited these evening markets not for excitement, but for routine and necessity. The final hours before sleep were often the only peaceful moments left after difficult labor beneath changing weather. Farmers arrived with heavy shoulders after long hours in wet fields. Seamstresses rubbed tired hands while examining bundles of calming herbs tied neatly with thin cords. Elderly villagers moved slowly between stalls wrapped in thick cloaks to protect themselves from cold nighttime air. The sellers themselves remained patient and quiet as darkness settled overhead. Their voices stayed low and calm while discussing the uses of various dried plants with familiar customers. Some herbs were prepared for teas meant to ease restlessness after hard physical work. Others were added to warm water or stored near beds to create gentle scents inside sleeping rooms. Simple knowledge about these plants traveled slowly between generations and often stayed within families for many years. One elderly merchant sat behind a long table covered with rough cloth, faded by time and weather. His woven baskets held dried mint leaves, lavender flowers, chamomile bundles, and small roots carefully tied together with string. He worked slowly beneath the lantern light, separating loose leaves with worn fingers while occasionally greeting passing villagers with quiet warmth. Beside him rested a clay cup releasing thin streams of steam into the cool evening air. Nearby, a woman carrying a wicker basket paused to examine several small herb bundles arranged neatly across another stall. Her shoes pressed softly into the packed dirt beneath scattered straw while she listened carefully to the seller explain which plants villagers often use during cold winters or sleepless nights. The conversation remained gentle and unhurried. Nobody rushed through these evening exchanges. Darkness itself seemed to slow every movement inside the market square. Further along the narrow road, another merchant displayed woven bags filled with dried flowers collected during the warmer months. Their faded colors still showed traces of pale yellow, soft purple, and muted green beneath the lantern glow. Some visitors lifted the herbs gently toward their faces, breathing in the mild scents before making small purchases with carefully counted coins. Cloth pouches disappeared into pockets and baskets as villagers prepared for another quiet night indoors. Children occasionally followed their parents through the market, wrapped tightly in wool blankets against the cold evening breeze. Their sleepy eyes wandered across baskets of herbs, hanging lanterns, and stalls filled with dried fruits and candles. The market at night felt calmer than during busy daytime hours. Fewer voices filled the air, and the fading light encouraged softer movements and quieter thoughts. Travelers arriving from distant roads sometimes entered the market shortly before closing time. Mud clung to their boots from long journeys across wet countryside. Paths, their cloaks carried the smell of rain, smoke, and cold wind gathered from days spent outdoors. Many stopped beside herb sellers, searching for comforting remedies to ease sore muscles or restless sleep during difficult travel. Some traders carried stories about unusual plants found in distant towns, though most conversations stayed practical and simple rather than dramatic. A young merchant working beside his father arranged fresh bundles carefully inside shallow baskets woven from willow branches. The herbs had been dried slowly beneath their family roof for many weeks before being brought to market. Each bundle represented careful labor spread across changing seasons. During summer months, families gathered leaves and flowers beneath warm sunlight before storing them for colder evenings when villagers searched for comfort and warmth. Beyond the market stalls, nearby homes glowed softly through small windows covered with cloth or wooden shutters. Thin smoke drifted upward from chimneys while cooking fires burned low inside quiet kitchens. The sounds of village life softened steadily as night deepened. Distant wagon wheels rolled slowly over uneven roads while horses shifted gently beside water troughs near the edge of town. Some healers also walked through the evening markets, searching for fresh supplies to prepare sleeping mixtures or calming remedies for local families. Their baskets often contained small jars, cloth wrappings, and carefully folded papers holding crushed herbs gathered from previous journeys. These healers paid close attention to the quality of each dried leaf or root before purchasing supplies. Their work required patience and observation rather than speed. Near the center of the square, a small lantern hanging from a wooden post illuminated drifting smoke rising from roasted chestnuts prepared by an older vendor, bundled in thick layers against the cold. The warm scent spread gently through the market, blending with the earthy fragrance of dried plants nearby. Several villagers paused quietly to warm their hands beside the small cooking fire before continuing toward home. The evening market also carried moments of stillness between conversations. Merchants sometimes stood silently beside their stalls, watching lantern light reflect against damp stones after light rain. Cats wandered carefully between wooden crates, searching for scraps beneath tables. Cloth coverings rustled softly whenever wind moved through the narrow streets connecting the market to nearby homes and inns. Inside one corner stall, shelves built from rough timber held small clay jars filled with crushed herbs prepared for mixing into warm evening drinks. Their labels were written carefully by hand using dark ink faded with time. Customers examined them slowly beneath candlelight, while the shopkeeper described how certain plants were believed to help calm busy thoughts after long working days. The atmosphere inside the stall remained peaceful, carrying the quiet comfort of routine repeated across many evenings. As the hour grew later, some merchants began covering their goods with thick cloth to protect them from nighttime moisture. Wooden shutters closed slowly over nearby windows while lantern flames burned lower one by one. The market gradually transformed from a place of trade into a quiet open square resting beneath the dark sky. Several final customers crossed the nearly empty market, carrying baskets filled with bread, herbs, candles, and small supplies needed for the next morning. Their footsteps echoed softly against stone walls as cool air settled deeper across the village streets. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked once before silence returned again. The medieval evening market was never filled with loud celebration or hurried noise during these late hours. Its calm nature reflected the slower rhythm of village life shaped by sunrise, weather, seasons, and physical labor. Dried herbs resting inside woven baskets became small symbols of comfort carried home by tired villagers searching for warmth, peace, and rest after difficult days. As the final lanterns dimmed beside empty stalls, the soft scents of mint, lavender, rosemary, and chamomile still lingered gently in the cooling air. Merchants lifted their baskets carefully and disappeared into dark streets leading toward quiet homes and sleeping families. Above the silent market square, pale moonlight settled softly across wooden roofs and narrow roads while the peaceful medieval village drifted steadily toward another long and restful night. Chapter 4. Describe calm healers preparing sleepy mixtures with careful wooden spoons. The peaceful work of medieval healers unfolded quietly beneath soft candlelight as nighttime settled across stone villages and dark countryside roads. Inside small homes warmed by low fires, careful hands moved slowly over wooden tables covered with dried herbs, folded cloths, clay bowls, and simple jars filled with leaves gathered during warmer seasons. The calm rhythm of these quiet rooms offered comfort to tired villagers searching for rest after difficult days by physical labor, cold weather, and long hours beneath open skies. Most healers lived modestly within small cottages tucked beside narrow paths or village edges where herb gardens grew behind wooden fences. Their homes carried a gentle mixture of scents drifting from drying plants, warm water, burning wood, and old books resting quietly upon rough shelves. Lanterns glowed softly against stone walls while weak firelight flickered across ceiling beams darkened by many winters of smoke. The evening often became the busiest time for healers, because many villagers arrived after finishing their daily work. Farmers entered with aching backs from carrying heavy tools through muddy fields. Elderly women sought relief from sleepless nights during cold seasons. Travelers stopped briefly before continuing difficult journeys along rough roads connecting distant towns. These visitors rarely spoke loudly. Fatigue softened their voices while the peaceful atmosphere inside the healer's home encouraged calm and patience. One elderly healer stood quietly beside a wooden table worn smooth by years of careful use. Small cloth bundles rested beside clay containers filled with dried mint, chamomile, fennel, rosemary, and lavender gathered from nearby hillsides and gardens. The healer selected each herb slowly, placing small amounts into a shallow bowl before crushing them gently with steady hands. A wooden spoon tapped softly against the edge of the bowl, while warm water heated nearby above glowing embers. Nothing inside these rooms moved quickly. The preparation of sleepy mixtures followed routines shaped by observation, experience, and repetition across many seasons. Healers understood the importance of patience when working with herbs meant to calm tired minds and exhausted bodies. Some mixtures required slow heating over weak fires, while others rested quietly inside covered bowls for several minutes before serving. Steam rose gently from iron pots hanging above low flames, while soft crackling sounds drifted through the room. Candlelight reflected faintly against clay jars lined carefully across shelves near the walls. Dried flowers hung upside down from ceiling beams beside strings of onions and bundles of thyme. The quiet setting created a sense of steady comfort for anyone entering from cold roads or dark village streets. A young mother carrying a sleeping child stepped carefully through the doorway one winter evening, while snow fell softly beyond the windows. Her hands trembled slightly from cold air as the healer invited her closer to the warmth of the fire. Without rushing, the healer prepared a mild evening mixture using herbs known for their gentle, calming qualities. A wooden spoon stirred the warm liquid slowly while steam drifted upward into the quiet room. Nearby, another villager waited silently on a narrow bench beside the hearth. His boots remained wet from crossing muddy farmland earlier that day. He watched the healer's careful movements while warming stiff fingers near the glowing fire. The peaceful sounds within the cottage seemed to slow the passing of time itself. Outside, wind brushed softly against wooden shutter while distant animals settled quietly for the night. Many healers learned about plants through observation passed between family members over generations. Children often assisted with gathering herbs during spring and summer months when flowers and leaves grew thick across forest edges and open meadows. Certain plants were picked early in the morning while dew still covered the grass. Others were collected late in the afternoon before evening cold settled across the land. After gathering the herbs, families dried them slowly inside shaded rooms, protected from rain and direct sunlight. Leaves rested upon cloth-covered racks, while roots hung beside ceiling beams to dry over several weeks. The process required attention because damp herbs spoiled easily during storage. Once dried completely, the plants were placed carefully inside jars, baskets, or linen bags until needed during colder months. Inside healer cottages, shelves often displayed rows of small containers labeled with handwritten markings faded by time and smoke. Some jars held crushed leaves, while others contained dried flower petals or thin roots tied together with string. The healer understood which mixtures villagers commonly requested after difficult workdays or sleepless nights. Warm, calming drinks remained especially popular during long winters when darkness arrived early and cold winds passed through cracks in village homes. One middle-aged healer prepared an evening mixture beside an open window where cool night air entered softly into the room. A wooden spoon moved slowly through warm liquid while candle flames flickered nearby. The healer occasionally paused to smell the herbs before adding another small portion from a cloth pouch resting beside the bowl. Every movement reflected patience and familiarity developed over decades of quiet work. Travelers often described healer homes as some of the calmest places within medieval villages. Unlike noisy taverns or crowded markets, these cottages carried a slower atmosphere shaped by soft voices, steady firelight, and gentle scents drifting through still air. People entered seeking relief from discomfort, fatigue, or restless nights. And many found comfort simply through the peaceful surroundings themselves. Outside the healer's cottage, darkness spread across empty roads beneath pale moonlight. Frost gathered slowly upon fences and rooftops, while thin smoke rose from nearby chimneys into the cold sky. The village itself grew quieter with each passing hour as families finished evening meals and prepared for sleep. Inside, the healer continued working carefully beside the fire. Clay cups warmed upon the table while prepared mixtures cooled slowly before serving. Some villagers carried these drinks home, wrapped carefully in cloth, while others remained near the fire until drowsiness softened their tired expressions. No loud conversation disturbed the calm atmosphere. The room encouraged quiet reflection and stillness. A young assistant swept dried leaves gently from the floor before organizing fresh bundles recently gathered from nearby gardens. Lavender, lemon balm, mint, and other herbs filled the cottage with light earthy scents that mixed softly with smoke from burning firewood. The assistant moved carefully to avoid disturbing restless visitors seated near the hearth. The medieval understanding of calming herbs remained simple and practical. Villagers often believed certain plants helped encourage rest, ease tension, or settle busy thoughts after physically demanding days. These mixtures formed part of ordinary nightly routines rather than dramatic rituals. Warmth, quiet surroundings, and familiar scents worked together to create peaceful evenings within homes, shaped by hard labor and changing seasons. As midnight approached, the healer's cottage grew quieter still. Fewer footsteps sounded outside along the frozen road. Candle flames burned lower while soft shadows stretched across the wooden floor. Remaining visitors wrapped cloaks tightly around their shoulders before stepping slowly back into the cold night, carrying small bundles of herbs or cups of warm mixtures prepared with care. The healer cleaned the wooden spoons gently beside a basin filled with warm water before placing them carefully upon folded cloths near the table edge. Clay bowls were stacked quietly beside cooling embers while hanging herbs swayed slightly whenever cold air slipped beneath the doorway. The room itself seemed to settle into stillness after another long evening of steady work. Beyond the windows, the medieval village rested peacefully beneath silent skies filled with pale stars. families slept inside simple homes warmed by fading fires and thick blankets stuffed with straw or wool. Somewhere in the distance, a horse shifted softly inside a stable while wind moved gently across empty roads, leading toward dark fields and forests. Inside the healer's cottage, the faint scent of herbs lingered calmly within the cooling air. The final candle flickered beside shelves filled with carefully stored plants gathered across many seasons. Wooden spoons rested quietly upon the table after hours of patient use. The peaceful atmosphere remained untouched by hurry or noise as another quiet medieval night drifted slowly toward morning. Chapter 5. Guide listeners through peaceful taverns filled with murmuring nighttime conversations. The quiet warmth of medieval taverns offered weary travelers and tired villagers a peaceful place to slow their thoughts as night settled gently across dark roads and sleeping countryside fields. Behind thick wooden doors and stone walls softened by candlelight, calm evening conversations drifted through the air, while firewood crackled steadily inside wide hearths, built to warm cold hands and damp clothing after long days spent outdoors. These taverns were not loud or chaotic during the late hours of evening. Most people arrived carrying the weight of physical labor, difficult travel, or long days beneath changing weather. By nightfall, exhaustion softened voices and slowed movements. The atmosphere inside became steady and calm as small groups gathered quietly around rough wooden tables illuminated by flickering lanterns hanging from ceiling beams darkened by years of smoke. The scent inside these rooms came from many simple things blending together naturally. Warm bread rested beside clay bowls filled with thick soup prepared earlier in the day. Smoke drifted upward from burning oak and pine logs stacked carefully within stone fireplaces. Damp wool cloaks hung near the entrance, slowly drying beside the heat. Nearby, wooden cups released the mild earthy smell of warm herbal drinks prepared to comfort tired bodies before sleep. The floors beneath heavy boots were uneven and worn smooth by countless travelers crossing through the taverns over many winters. Straw-covered portions of the ground to soften footsteps absorb moisture carried inside during rain or snow. Wooden benches creaked gently whenever someone shifted position closer to the fire. Soft murmuring voices rose and faded like distant wind, never becoming sharp or hurried. One traveler sat quietly beside a corner table after arriving from several days of slow movement across muddy countryside roads. Dust covered the edges of his cloak, while cold air still clung to his boots and gloves. He wrapped both hands around a warm cup prepared with calming herbs gathered from nearby gardens. Steam drifted slowly upward toward the dim lantern hanging above him, while his tired shoulders relaxed into stillness. Across the room, several villagers shared simple evening meals after finishing difficult work before sunset. Their conversation moved calmly between pauses filled with quiet reflection. They spoke about changing weather, repairing fences, caring for animals, and preparing fields for future harvests. No voice attempted to dominate the room. Everyone seemed content with the soft rhythm of slow conversation carried gently through warm, firelit air. Tavern keepers often understood the importance of creating peaceful spaces during these late nighttime hours. Many travelers arrived seeking rest more than entertainment. The innkeeper moved quietly between tables carrying bowls, cloths, and warm drinks while carefully tending the fire so the room remained comfortable against cold winds outside. Candle flames flickered softly whenever the front door opened briefly to admit another guest escaping the darkness beyond the village roads. Along one wall rested shelves holding simple supplies used each evening. Clay mugs stood beside jars filled with dried herbs collected during warmer months. Some tavern keepers prepared mild nighttime mixtures using mint, lavender, lemon balm, or chamomile to help weary guests relax after long journeys. These drinks were served slowly and quietly, often alongside warm bread or small bowls of cooked vegetables. The sounds within medieval taverns changed gradually as the night deepened. Earlier conversations became softer while several guests rested silently near the fire, staring into glowing embers. A few travelers loosened stiff boots and stretched tired legs beneath wooden tables scarred by many years of use. Cloth sleeves brushed lightly against rough surfaces while spoons tapped quietly inside empty bowls. Outside, pale moonlight rested upon empty village roads and dark stable yards, where horses shifted gently beside water troughs. The cold night air remained still except for occasional wind, moving softly across rooftops covered with straw and weathered timber. Inside the tavern, warmth and low conversation created a strong feeling of shelter from the quiet darkness surrounding the village. A young serving woman carried folded blankets towards several travelers preparing to sleep upstairs beneath heavy wool coverings. Her footsteps remained light against the wooden staircase, while lantern light followed her movements along narrow hallways leading toward small rented rooms. Beneath the tavern roof, guests settled gradually into silence, while the fire below continued glowing steadily through the night. Near the hearth, an older man described distant towns visited many years earlier during long trading journeys across rivers, forests, and mountain roads. His voice remained calm and steady as nearby listeners followed his quiet stories without interruption. The room itself seemed to encourage patience and reflection rather than excitement. Long pauses settled naturally between sentences, while crackling firewood filled the silence comfortably. Some travelers carried small cloth bundles of herbs purchased from evening markets earlier that day. These rested beside cups and folded cloaks upon the tables, while guests discussed the simple remedies used across different villages for sleeplessness or physical exhaustion. Certain herbs were believed to calm busy thoughts after difficult travel, especially during cold winters when darkness lasted many long hours. The tavern windows were small and thick. allowing only faint glimpses of the night outside. Frost gathered slowly along the edges of the glass, while candlelight reflected warmly against the surface. Occasionally, passing wind brushed softly against the outer walls, but inside the room remained steady and protected from the cold countryside beyond. Several cats wandered quietly beneath the table, searching for crumbs left behind after evening meals. Their movements were slow and careful, unnoticed by many guests too tired to pay attention. Near the entrance, heavy cloaks dripped melted snow onto straw-covered floors, while boots lined neatly beside benches close to the fire. In one quiet corner, a traveler rested his head against the wooden wall, while listening to the soft murmur surrounding him. His eyes grew heavier with each passing moment as warmth spread through the room. Nearby, another guest slowly stirred a mild herbal drink using a carved wooden spoon while staring calmly into the low flames dancing inside the hearth. The medieval tavern offered more than food and shelter during long nights. It provided a temporary place where exhausted people could pause safely between responsibilities, journeys, and uncertain weather. The peaceful atmosphere softened the harshness of everyday life, shaped by labor, cold seasons, and difficult travel conditions. Warm rooms, quiet company, and steady routines help many people feel calm before sleep. As midnight approached, conversations faded even further into silence. Several candles burned low beside empty cups and cooling bowls. Tavern workers cleaned tables carefully while stacking wooden dishes near the kitchen entrance. The remaining guests wrapped themselves in blankets or cloaks while settling beside the fire for a few final moments of warmth before resting. Outside the tavern walls, the village slept beneath pale stars and drifting clouds. Empty roads stretched quietly toward distant farms and forests hidden within darkness. Somewhere beyond the stable yard, an owl called softly before silence returned once more. Inside, glowing embers continued casting gentle orange light across the worn wooden beams and sleeping travelers resting peacefully near the hearth. The air still carried traces of smoke, herbs, damp wool, and fresh bread cooling slowly beside the kitchen. Every sound softened naturally into stillness as another medieval night passed calmly within the shelter of the quiet tavern. Chapter 6. Invite slow thoughts about travelers resting quietly beside smoky fireplaces. The long roads of medieval lands often ended each evening beside the soft glow of smoky fireplaces where weary travelers finally allowed their tired bodies to rest in silence and warmth. After hours spent crossing muddy paths, damp forests, narrow bridges, and open countryside beneath changing skies, many travelers searched only for shelter, quiet comfort, and a peaceful corner beside steady firelight before sleep slowly arrived. Small roadside inns stood carefully along trade routes and village edges, offering simple protection from cold wind and darkness. Their wooden walls carried the scent of smoke soaked deeply into the beams after many years of burning fires through winter nights. Dim lanterns hung beside entrances while narrow windows revealed faint orange light glowing gently against the darkness outside. Travelers approaching these places often moved more slowly as warmth and safety finally replaced the strain of long journeys. Inside, fireplaces became the center of evening life during quiet nighttime hours. Large stones surrounded the burning logs while thin streams of smoke drifted upward through wide chimneys, disappearing into the cold night sky above. The crackling sound of dry wood filled the room steadily, soft and comforting against the silence that waited outside beyond the walls. Travelers rested quietly beside these fires after removing heavy cloaks damp from rain or covered with dust from long roads. Their boots stood near the hearth, slowly drying beside folded blankets and leather bags placed carefully against wooden benches. Some guests stretched aching legs toward the warmth, while others leaned silently against stone walls, watching glowing embers settle beneath flickering flames. The atmosphere inside these inns remained peaceful and slow. Most travelers arrived exhausted from physical effort rather than seeking lively entertainment. Their conversations stayed gentle and brief, often fading naturally into long periods of silence filled only by firewood, shifting softly inside the hearth. The calm rhythm of the room encouraged stillness after difficult travel across rough landscapes. One traveler rested alone near the far side of the fireplace, his face illuminated softly by orange firelight. Fine dust covered the edges of his cloak after several days spent moving between distant villages, carrying letters and small supplies along narrow countryside roads. His hands wrapped around a warm clay cup while steam drifted slowly into the smoky air surrounding him. He spoke little, allowing the quiet comfort of warmth to settle through tired muscles and cold fingers. Nearby, another guest carefully removed thick gloves stiffened by winter frost. Snow melted slowly from the edges of worn boots resting beside the firestones. The traveler closed tired eyes briefly, while listening to the gentle sounds surrounding the room. Wooden beams creaked softly overhead. Someone shifted quietly upon a nearby bench. Outside, faint wind brushed against the inn walls before disappearing once again into the darkness. The fireplaces themselves were rarely clean or polished. Soot darkened the surrounding stone while smoke left deep marks along ceiling beams above. Yet these imperfections carried a sense of familiarity and comfort for people accustomed to harsh weather and difficult roads. Warmth mattered far more than appearance during long medieval nights, shaped by cold air and physical exhaustion. Some travelers carried small cloth bundles containing herbs purchased from roadside markets earlier in their journeys. These rested beside their belongings while calming scents slowly mixed with wood smoke drifting through the room. Tavern keepers and inn workers occasionally prepared warm herbal drinks for guests seeking peaceful sleep before continuing their travels at sunrise. The mixtures remained simple and mild, intended mainly to ease tension after long days outdoors. A young stable worker entered quietly from the cold night carrying additional firewood gathered from a nearby shed. Small flakes of snow rested upon his shoulders before melting beside the warmth of the hearth. He stacked the wood carefully near the fireplace while several travelers watched silently through half-closed eyes. The room remained calm enough that every small movement carried gentle clarity within the quiet atmosphere. Outside the inn, the medieval countryside rested beneath pale moonlight and drifting clouds. Empty roads curved through dark forests and sleeping fields where frost settled softly across grass and fences. Horses rested inside nearby stables, breathing slowly into the cold air while their harnesses hung quietly beside wooden doors. The stillness of the night made the warm firelit room feel even more peaceful and secure. Inside, travelers slowly settled deeper into rest as the evening passed. Some leaned back against folded cloaks, serving as pillows while listening to distant crackling from the fire. Others quietly repaired torn gloves, adjusted travel bags, or loosened stiff shoulders after carrying heavy loads throughout the day. No one hurried through these final nighttime moments. Exhaustion naturally slowed every action. One elderly traveler spoke softly about roads crossed many years earlier during long journeys between mountain villages and riverside towns. His voice remained low and calm, while nearby listeners rested comfortably beside the warmth. He described cold rain, narrow forest paths, and peaceful inns where fires burned through endless winter nights. The stories moved gently through the room without excitement or dramatic detail, blending naturally into the steady atmosphere created by smoke and glowing embers. Children traveling with their families often fell asleep quickly near the fireplaces, wrapped tightly in wool blankets spread across wooden benches. Their breathing became slow and steady while parents continued speaking quietly nearby. The warmth of the hearth softened tired expressions throughout the room as nighttime deepened further. The innkeeper moved carefully between resting guests, carrying extra blankets and checking the fire whenever flames burned too low. Lantern light reflected faintly against clay cups and iron cooking pots hanging near the kitchen. Thin smoke drifted gently through the upper parts of the room before escaping through narrow openings near the roof. Some travelers preferred sleeping close to the fireplaces rather than renting small upstairs rooms, because the heat remained stronger near the glowing embers. They arranged blankets carefully beside the hearth while placing boots and belongings within reach. The stone floor beneath them still held warmth gathered slowly throughout the evening. Outside, silence covered the countryside completely. No wagons rolled along the distant roads at this late hour. Market stalls stood empty beneath pale frost. Forest trees moved only slightly beneath cold night wind. The world beyond the inn seemed still and quiet beneath the dark medieval sky. Inside the firelit room, time itself appeared slower. The steady movement of flames, The soft shifting of shadows across wooden walls and the gentle breathing of resting travelers created a calm rhythm, untouched by hurry or noise. Even the smoke drifting upward through the chimney seemed to move with patience. As midnight approached, conversations faded almost entirely. Several guests slept peacefully near the hearth, while others remained awake only long enough to finish warm drinks cooling slowly beside them. The fire burned lower now, glowing deep red beneath dark pieces of wood settling quietly into ash. The innkeeper covered remaining lanterns one by one until only the fireplace continued lighting the room with soft orange color. Shadows stretched gently across resting travelers and rough wooden furniture shaped by many years of use. The air remained warm despite the freezing countryside surrounding the building outside. In the final quiet hours before dawn, the medieval inn became a place of complete stillness, where exhausted travelers rested safely beside smoky fireplaces after long and difficult journeys. Their thoughts slowed naturally within the calm atmosphere created by warmth, darkness, and silence. Outside, frost-covered empty roads leading toward distant villages still hidden beneath the sleeping night. Inside, glowing embers continued shining softly through the darkness while weary travelers drifted peacefully into deep and gentle rest. Chapter 7. Explore simple medieval gardens growing calming herbs beneath cool moonlight softly. The quiet beauty of medieval herb gardens brought gentle comfort to tired villagers, long after the noise of daytime labor disappeared beneath the calm stillness of night. Behind simple homes, beside stone cottages, and near narrow countryside paths, small gardens rested peacefully beneath pale moonlight, while cool air moved softly through rows of carefully grown plants known for their calming scents and soothing qualities. These gardens were rarely large or decorative. Most were practical spaces shaped by patience, routine, and the changing rhythm of the seasons. Wooden fences surrounded narrow patches of earth where herbs grew closely together beside vegetables, onions, and small fruit bushes. Stone paths crossed between the rows while damp soil carried the scent of rain, leaves, and cool nighttime air. During quiet evenings, the entire garden seemed to breathe slowly beneath the silver glow of the moon overhead. Villagers depended heavily on these gardens throughout medieval life. Herbs were gathered not only for cooking but also for comfort during restless nights, cold winters, and periods of physical exhaustion after long working days. Many families understood which plants produced gentle scents, warm drinks, or calming mixtures prepared before sleep. This knowledge often passed quietly between generations through observation and careful practice rather than written instruction. Lavender grew beside narrow pathways, its soft flowers releasing a faint, peaceful fragrance whenever cool wind brushed through the stems. Mint leaves spread easily through damp corners of the garden, carrying a fresh, clean scent into the night air. Lemon balm rested quietly beneath larger plants, while chamomile flowers opened softly beneath moonlight, their pale petals glowing gently against the dark soil surrounding them. One elderly woman stepped quietly into her small garden shortly after sunset, carrying a woven basket lined with cloth. Her shoes pressed softly against damp earth while crickets sang faintly from nearby grass. She moved carefully between the herb rows beneath the calm moonlight, selecting several leaves and flowers needed for a warm nighttime drink prepared for her family before sleep. Every movement reflected patience shaped by many years of tending the same peaceful garden. The cool night air made the scents of the herbs more noticeable after sunset. During the daytime, heat and busy work often distracted villagers from these gentle details. But at night, when voices faded and roads became empty, the fragrance of mint, rosemary, lavender, and thyme drifted softly across the quiet countryside. Even simple gardens seemed calm and comforting beneath the darkness. Some medieval healers grew larger collections of herbs beside their homes. Their gardens contained rows carefully arranged according to each plant's needs for sunlight, moisture, and shelter from cold wind. Wooden signs or small stones marked the growing areas, while baskets rested nearby for gathering leaves during harvest seasons. These spaces were tended with great care because many villagers depended upon the herbs for everyday comfort and rest. One healer walked slowly through her garden beneath pale moonlight while examining the condition of each plant before the arrival of colder weather. Her hands brushed gently across the leaves while dew gathered softly upon her sleeves. Nearby, bundles of harvested herbs already hung beneath a covered shelter, waiting to dry slowly over the coming weeks. The peaceful silence surrounding the garden made every small sound feel clear and gentle. Beyond the fences, dark fields stretched quietly beneath the night sky, while distant farmhouses glowed faintly from dying fires inside. No carts moved along the roads at this late hour. Horses rested inside wooden stables, while village dogs slept near doorways sheltered from cold wind. The gardens themselves remained among the calmest places within the medieval countryside after sunset. Some families spent portions of their evenings sitting quietly near these gardens after finishing household duties. Wooden benches rested beside herb beds where cool air carried soft scents into the darkness. Tired workers often welcomed these peaceful moments. After difficult days spent harvesting crops, repairing fences, or carrying water across muddy ground. The gardens offered stillness rather than excitement, allowing the mind and body to settle naturally before sleep. Children sometimes assisted with caring for the herbs during warmer seasons. They watered young plants using wooden buckets carried carefully from nearby wells. They helped remove weeds growing between the rows and gathered flowers beneath adult supervision during harvest periods. Through these simple tasks, they slowly learned which herbs were used for cooking, which were prepared for comfort, and which were stored carefully for winter evenings. Moonlight resting upon the gardens created soft silver shapes across leaves, stones, and narrow pathways. Dew collected gently upon flower petals while cool air moved quietly through taller plants. The calm atmosphere encouraged slower movement and quiet observation. Even the smallest details became noticeable within the stillness of the night. One young traveler, staying beside a village cottage, stepped outside, unable to sleep after several difficult days spent crossing rough roads through rain and cold wind. Drawn by the faint scent drifting through the air, the traveler wandered slowly toward the herb garden behind the cottage. There, beneath moonlight and silence, the rows of lavender and mint offered a peaceful sense of rest, far removed from crowded roads and uncertain travel. Nearby, an older gardener sat quietly upon a low wooden stool while sorting freshly gathered herbs into small bundles tied with string. A lantern resting beside the garden gate cast weak golden light across the surrounding leaves. The gardener worked slowly without hurry, occasionally pausing to listen to distant night sounds moving across the countryside. During medieval times, these gardens often represented stability and routine within lives shaped by hard physical work and changing seasons. Families depended upon the herbs not because they were rare or mysterious, but because they provided simple forms of comfort available close to home. Warm herbal drinks, calming scents, and carefully prepared mixtures became familiar parts of nighttime life across villages and farms. As autumn approached, many villagers spent extra time gathering herbs before frost arrived. Leaves were cut carefully during dry afternoons before being carried indoors to hang beneath roofs or inside storage rooms, protected from moisture. The scent of drying plants filled homes quietly for many weeks afterward. During winter, these preserved herbs provided warmth and comfort when gardens rested beneath snow or frozen ground. The peaceful nature of medieval herb gardens remained closely connected to the slower rhythm of village life itself. Plants required patience, observation, and steady care rather than force or speed. Villagers understood the importance of weather, soil, sunlight, and time through daily experience. Nights spent among the herbs beneath cool moonlight became moments of calm reflection after demanding days. Far above the gardens, clouds drifted slowly across pale stars while gentle wind brushed through tree branches. Beyond the village edge, owls called faintly from distant woods. Somewhere nearby, water moved softly through a narrow stream crossing the countryside fields. The quiet sounds blended naturally with the stillness surrounding the herb beds. Inside nearby homes, fires burned lower while families prepared for sleep beneath wool blankets and heavy cloth coverings. Candle flames flickered weakly behind shuttered windows, while warm drinks cooled slowly upon wooden tables. Outside, the gardens continued resting peacefully beneath moonlight, untouched by noise or hurry. The final hours of the night settled softly across the medieval countryside as dew thickened upon the leaves and stone paths. Lavender stems swayed gently within the cold air. Chamomile flowers closed slowly beneath the dark sky. Mint leaves carried their fresh scent quietly through the sleeping village, while herb gardens remained calm beneath the pale silver light of the moon. Chapter 8. Describe quiet castle rooms carrying faint music through narrow stone corridors. The quiet stillness of medieval castles carried a calm and steady atmosphere after nightfall. When fading candlelight and faint distant music softened the cold stone halls into peaceful places of rest. Behind thick walls built for protection against harsh weather and uncertain times, long corridors stretched silently beneath high ceilings, while soft footsteps echoed gently through the darkness. The busy movement of daytime servants, guards, and workers slowly disappeared as the evening settled into a slower and quieter rhythm. Most castle rooms remained dimly lit during nighttime hours. Candles rested inside iron holders attached to stone walls, while small lanterns glowed faintly beside wooden doors and narrow stairways. Their weak light reflected softly across smooth sections of worn stone shaped by many years of passing footsteps. Shadows drifted gently along the corridors whenever a servant carried another candle through the quiet halls. Far from the loud image often imagined in stories, many castles became remarkably calm during the late evening. The thick stone walls muted outside sounds while protecting those inside from cold wind moving across dark hills and forests surrounding the castle grounds. Within this peaceful silence, faint music occasionally traveled through narrow passageways from distant rooms where musicians quietly played simple melodies before sleep. The music itself remained soft and slow. Gentle string instruments produced calm, steady notes that drifted lightly through the corridors without urgency or excitement. Sometimes the sound came from private chambers where nobles relaxed after long days filled with responsibilities, meetings, or travel. At other times, musicians practiced quietly in small rooms lit only by candlelight, while most of the castle rested peacefully around them. One servant moved slowly along a narrow hallway carrying folded blankets toward an upper chamber. Her footsteps echoed softly against the stone floor while faint music reached her ears from somewhere deeper within the castle. The sound blended naturally with the quiet crackling of distant fireplaces and the occasional movement of heavy wooden doors, closing gently for the night. Inside one chamber, a noblewoman rested beside a small fire while listening to a musician seated near the far wall of the room. Candlelight flickered softly across woven wall coverings and carved wooden furniture while cool night air pressed quietly against the narrow windows. A warm herbal drink rested beside her chair, sending thin streams of steam upward into the dim room. The peaceful music helped soften the silence of the late hour after a long day within the castle walls. The corridors themselves carried a feeling of stillness after sunset. During daytime hours, these passages filled with movement from cooks, guards, messengers, and servants carrying supplies through every part of the castle. But at night, only a few quiet figures crossed the halls beneath flickering candles. Their movements remain slow and careful to avoid disturbing those already sleeping inside nearby chambers. Many castle rooms contain simple comforts prepared carefully before bedtime. Thick wool blankets rested upon wooden beds raised slightly above cold stone floors. Clay cups filled with warm herbal mixture stood beside candles burning low upon small tables. Fireplaces glowed steadily inside larger chambers, where smoke drifted upward through narrow chimneys, disappearing into the dark sky above the castle towers. The scent inside these nighttime rooms came from burning wood, melted wax, drying herbs, and heavy cloth warmed beside the fire. Some chambers also carried faint traces of lavender or rosemary, placed near sleeping areas to create calm and comfort during long winter evenings. These gentle scents drifted quietly through the corridors whenever doors opened briefly before closing once more into silence. A young guard stood watch near the entrance to a stone staircase leading toward the upper floors. His lantern cast weak golden light across the rough walls surrounding him, while distant music floated softly through the still air. Outside the castle, moonlight covered the surrounding fields and forests in pale silver, while cold wind moved quietly along the outer walls and towers. Far below, kitchen workers finished cleaning the final cooking pots beside fading fires. Their voices remained low and tired after long hours, preparing meals for castle residents and travelers staying within the walls. Wooden bowls were stacked carefully upon shelves, while bread cooled quietly upon cloth-covered tables. The peaceful atmosphere spread through every level of the castle as nighttime deepened further. Some castle residents found comfort simply by walking slowly through the quiet corridors before sleep. The cool stone beneath their footsteps and the distant sound of soft music created moments of calm reflection after busy days filled with responsibility. Narrow windows revealed dark skies filled with pale stars, while candlelight flickered gently against the ancient walls. Inside one small room near the western tower, an older musician sat quietly beside a fire, practicing slow melodies upon a simple string instrument. The notes drifted carefully into the hallway beyond, carried softly through the stillness of the sleeping castle. Nearby servants passing through the corridor slowed briefly to listen before continuing toward their nighttime duties. The music never overwhelmed the silence. Instead, it blended gently with the quiet sounds of the castle itself. Firewood settled softly inside hearths. Cloth curtains moved slightly whenever cold air entered through narrow windows. Distant footsteps echoed faintly before fading once again into stillness. The entire castle seemed to breathe slowly beneath the darkness outside. In private chambers, several nobles prepared calming evening drinks using herbs gathered from castle gardens or nearby villages. Warm mixtures rested upon small wooden trays carried carefully by servants through the quiet halls. These nighttime routines became familiar parts of life within the castle, especially during cold seasons when long nights encouraged rest and stillness indoors. The stone corridors often remained cool even beside burning candles and fireplaces. Thick walls held the coldness of winter deep within them, and many residents wrapped themselves in heavy cloaks while moving between rooms at night. Yet, this cool air also made the warmth of firelit chambers feel especially comforting after stepping through the silent hallways. One young traveler invited to stay within the castle rested beside a narrow window overlooking dark countryside fields stretching beyond the outer walls. The faint sound of music drifting through the corridors reached the room softly, while moonlight touched the stone floor beside the bed. The traveler listened quietly while exhaustion from many days of travel slowly faded into calm. Outside, the castle grounds rested peacefully beneath the cold night sky. Horses slept inside nearby stables, while guards moved quietly along the walls carrying lanterns against the darkness. Trees surrounding the castle shifted gently beneath light wind moving across the hills. No loud activity disturbed the stillness of the late hour. As midnight approached, more candles burned lower throughout the castle. Several corridors darkened completely except for weak moonlight entering through narrow windows cut into the stone walls. The distant music gradually softened as musicians finished their final quiet melodies before resting for the night. Servants covered remaining fires carefully while checking doors and windows before sleep. Heavy blankets were pulled higher against the cold. Clay cups cooled beside empty chairs and sleeping chambers settled fully into silence. The peaceful atmosphere carried through every room, hallway, and staircase within the castle walls. The final sounds of the night became small and gentle. A fading musical note drifted briefly through the corridor before disappearing. Footsteps slowed and stopped behind closed doors. Firewood cracked softly one final time inside distant hearths. Outside the narrow windows, pale moonlight continued resting quietly across towers, courtyards, and sleeping countryside fields beyond the castle walls. Within the calm stone chambers and silent corridors, medieval castle life finally settled into complete stillness beneath the quiet darkness of the night. Chapter 9. Guide sleepy minds toward peaceful countryside paths beneath silent midnight skies. The deep quiet of medieval countryside nights brought a peaceful stillness that gently settled over winding paths, sleeping farms, and distant hills. Beneath wide midnight skies filled with pale stars. Far away from crowded markets, noisy workshops, and busy castle halls, the open countryside rested calmly in darkness while cool air moved softly through tall grass and silent trees. The long roads connecting scattered villages became nearly empty after nightfall, leaving only faint moonlight to guide the shape of narrow dirt paths stretching across fields and forests. During these late hours, the medieval world slowed almost completely. Farmers rested inside small cottages after exhausting days spent working the land from sunrise until evening. Travelers who had reached safe inns slept beside fading fires, while horses stood quietly within wooden stables. Even the animals across the countryside seemed calmer beneath the cool stillness of the night. The narrow paths winding between fields carried traces of countless footsteps gathered over many years. Wagons, farmers, shepherds, traders, and wandering travelers had crossed these roads through changing seasons, leaving shallow marks pressed into the earth. By midnight, however, the roads belonged mostly to silence. Pale moonlight rested gently upon the uneven ground, while thin clouds drifted slowly overhead without hurry. One quiet pathway curved beside a wide open field where tall grass moved softly beneath the cold night breeze. Dew gathered along the edges of the road, reflecting faint silver light from the moon above. Nearby fences stood dark and still while distant trees formed quiet shadows against the horizon. No voices disturbed the peaceful atmosphere. Only the occasional sound of wind brushing through branches reached the empty path. A lone traveler walked slowly along the countryside road after leaving a small village earlier that evening. The traveler carried a lantern whose weak glow illuminated only a few steps ahead upon the dirt path. Tired boots pressed gently into damp soil, while the calm silence surrounding the field seemed to soften every thought. After long hours spent among noisy towns and crowded roads, the still countryside offered a feeling of deep restfulness beneath the endless night sky. Far beyond the path, scattered farmhouses rested quietly beneath sloping roofs covered with straw and weathered wood. Thin smoke no longer rose from their chimneys because most fires had already burned low for the night. Small windows reflected faint candlelight where families slept peacefully beneath thick blankets after another difficult day of labor. The countryside itself seemed to breathe slowly beneath the darkness. Some medieval villagers occasionally stepped outside during these late hours to gather water, check animals, or simply enjoy the cool air before sleep. They wrapped heavy cloaks around their shoulders while crossing silent yards touched by moonlight and frost. Their movements remained slow and quiet so as not to disturb the calm stillness surrounding the sleeping land. Along certain paths, herb gardens rested peacefully beside cottages, while the scent of lavender and mint drifted gently into the night air. Cool wind carried these faint earthy fragrances across the empty roads, blending softly with the smell of damp grass, soil, and distant forest trees. Even the simplest countryside spaces felt calm and comforting beneath the pale midnight glow. The stars above medieval countryside roads appeared bright and clear without the distraction of city lights or busy streets. Travelers often relied upon these distant lights while crossing open land between villages. Yet, during peaceful nighttime hours, the stars also brought a quiet sense of stillness to those resting beside the paths or gazing upward before sleep. One shepherd rested near a low stone wall after guiding animals across the hills earlier that day. A folded blanket covered the ground beneath him, while nearby sheep slept quietly within a fenced pasture. The shepherd listened to the faint sound of wind moving through dry grass while moonlight spread softly across the empty countryside. No urgency remained within the night. Every sound and movement unfolded slowly and gently. Small streams crossing the countryside added another layer of peaceful sound to the darkness. Water moved quietly beneath wooden bridges and alongside narrow paths hidden between trees. During daylight hours, villagers crossed these streams frequently while carrying supplies or leading animals toward distant fields. But at midnight, the streams flowed undisturbed beneath the sleeping sky. Some travelers carried calming herbs gathered from village markets earlier in the day. Their cloth pouches released faint scents whenever cool wind touched them during long nighttime walks. Mint, rosemary, chamomile, and lavender often accompanied travelers seeking comfort and rest after difficult journeys through rough terrain and uncertain weather. The countryside roads themselves rarely remained perfectly straight. They curved naturally around hills, forests, streams, and farmland shaped over generations by repeated use rather than careful planning. These gentle curves created a peaceful rhythm for anyone walking beneath the silent night sky. Each bend revealed another quiet stretch of moonlit earth disappearing softly into darkness ahead. Owls occasionally called from distant trees, while small nighttime insects moved quietly through grass beside the roads. The sounds remained gentle and widely spaced within the stillness. Unlike busy daytime hours filled with labor and conversation, the midnight countryside encouraged calm reflection and silence. One elderly traveler stopped briefly beside a large oak tree growing near a crossroads between villages. The tree's branches stretched dark against the sky while cool wind rustled softly through the leaves overhead. The traveler leaned against the rough bark for a moment of rest before continuing slowly along the moonlit path toward a distant inn hidden somewhere beyond the hills. Fields planted earlier in the season rested quietly beneath the night air. Rows of grain moved gently whenever wind crossed the open land. Empty farming tools remained stacked beside fences where workers had left them before sunset. The hard effort of medieval life paused briefly within these peaceful nighttime hours, while the countryside settled fully into rest. Far away from castles and towns, the open land carried a simplicity that many travelers remembered long after their journeys ended. The absence of noise, crowded streets, and constant movement created moments of calm rarely found during busy daylight hours. Walking beneath silent skies beside sleeping fields allowed tired minds to slow naturally beneath the steady rhythm of footsteps upon quiet earth. As the night deepened further, frost gathered lightly along the edges of narrow paths, while mist formed across low meadows near streams and ponds. Moonlight reflected faintly upon the moisture, creating soft, pale shapes. drifting close to the ground. The countryside remained peaceful and untouched by hurry or distraction. Inside distant cottages, villagers slept soundly beneath wool blankets, while small fires glowed weakly within stone hearths. Dogs rested beside doorways. Horses stood quietly inside dark stables. Every part of the medieval countryside seemed connected by the same calm silence spreading beneath the midnight sky. The final hours before dawn brought even greater stillness across the roads and fields. Wind slowed gently, the stars remained bright overhead. Travelers fortunate enough to find shelter rested peacefully, while empty paths stretched quietly between sleeping villages hidden within the darkness. Beneath the pale moonlight and silent skies, the medieval countryside continued resting calmly through the long night, offering weary minds a peaceful world shaped by quiet roads, cool air, and endless stillness. Chapter 10. Invite gentle rest while distant church bells fade into darkness slowly. The peaceful stillness of medieval nights settled softly across villages and countryside roads as distant bells echoed gently through the cool darkness before fading slowly into silence. Long after markets closed, fireplaces dimmed, and travelers rested beside warm hearths, the quiet sound of bells carried across sleeping fields and narrow stone streets beneath pale midnight skies. Their slow rhythm blended naturally with the calm atmosphere of the resting world, marking the passing hours while most villagers slept deeply beneath heavy blankets inside small wooden homes. The medieval night moved quietly after the final work of the day ended. Candles burned lower inside cottages while fading embers glowed softly within stone hearths. Outside, cold air drifted through empty roads lined with darkened homes and silent market stalls covered against the weather. The entire village seemed calm beneath the stillness of late evening, as soft moonlight rested gently across rooftops and narrow pathways. In the distance, the sound of bells rose slowly into the night air. The tones remained deep and steady rather than sharp or sudden. They traveled peacefully across open fields, rivers, gardens, and sleeping farms before gradually disappearing into the darkness surrounding the countryside. The quiet sound became part of the nighttime rhythm, familiar to generations of villagers who lived close to the slow movement of seasons, weather, and changing daylight. Inside one small cottage near the edge of a village, a tired family rested after a long day of labor beneath cold autumn skies. A weak fire continued glowing near the center of the room, while warm blankets covered sleeping children lying quietly beside the hearth. Their parents rested nearby upon simple wooden beds stuffed with straw and wool. The faint sound of distant bells entered softly through the shutters while cool air brushed lightly against the walls outside. No hurried movement disturbed the peaceful atmosphere of the late hour. Farm tools rested quietly near doorways after being carried home before sunset. Wooden bowls stood empty beside cooling candles. Woven baskets filled with herbs and dried plants waited silently upon shelves while the scent of lavender and mint drifted gently through the room. Across the village, another small home remained dimly lit, while an elderly woman prepared one final warm herbal drink before sleep. Steam rose softly from the clay cup resting between her hands, while the distant bells sounded once more through the cold night air. She listened quietly beside the fading fire, allowing the calm rhythm of the evening to settle fully around her. Outside the homes, narrow roads curved peacefully between cottages and stone walls beneath pale moonlight. The dirt pathways remained empty except for occasional guards or late travelers moving slowly toward shelter before dawn. Frost gathered gently upon grass beside fences while distant trees stood motionless beneath the dark sky. The bells continued carrying across the countryside at long, quiet intervals. Their sound reflected faintly against hills and forests before softening into silence once again. For many medieval villagers, these distant tones blended naturally into nighttime life, becoming part of the calm background surrounding sleep, rest, and quiet reflection after difficult days of physical work. Near the village center, an innkeeper closed heavy wooden shutters against the cold air while the final guests settled into peaceful sleep upstairs. Blankets covered tired travelers resting after long journeys along muddy roads and narrow countryside paths. The fire within the common room burned lower now, casting soft orange light across empty tables and worn wooden floors. Outside, the bells drifted gently through the darkness, while lantern flames flickered beside the entrance. One traveler remained a little longer beside the dying fire, listening quietly to the peaceful sounds surrounding the sleeping village. The scent of smoke, herbs, and warm bread still lingered within the room, while faint wind brushed softly against the outer walls. The slow ringing of distant bells seemed to stretch gently across the cold night air before fading once more into silence. Beyond the village, open countryside fields rested beneath drifting clouds and pale stars. Streams moved quietly beneath wooden bridges, while narrow roads disappeared into dark forests and rolling hills. No carts crossed the roads at this late hour. No workers remained in the fields. The world itself appeared calm and motionless beneath the wide midnight sky. Inside larger stone houses and quiet castle chambers, candles burned low beside sleeping residents wrapped in heavy blankets against the cold. Servants finished their final nighttime duties before retreating silently into smaller rooms tucked beneath stairways and corridors. Faint music no longer drifted through the halls. Only the occasional crackling of firewood interrupted the stillness within the ancient walls. Some healers and herbal workers remained awake slightly longer than others, preparing dried plants for future use or sorting fresh leaves gathered earlier that day. Their quiet movements beside lantern light created soft shadows against stone floors, while jars, bowls, and wooden spoons rested neatly across worn tables. Even within these active rooms, the atmosphere remained peaceful and unhurried beneath the late hour. Far across the countryside, shepherds slept near fenced pastures while horses rested inside dark stables, protected from cold wind. Owls called softly from distant woods before silence returned again. Dew formed slowly upon herb gardens, rooftops, and empty market roads, while moonlight reflected faintly against wet stone and grass. The sound of bells grew softer as the night deepened further. Their final echoes drifted gently across rivers, cottages, barns, and sleeping villages before fading slowly into the darkness beyond the hills. The calm rhythm of medieval nighttime settled completely over the land. Inside one quiet farmhouse, a young child stirred briefly beneath warm blankets after hearing the distant bells through the shuttered window. Nearby, a parent adjusted the blanket gently before returning to peaceful rest beside the fading fire. The room remained warm and calm while cool night air continued moving softly outside. The final hours before dawn often carried the deepest silence. Most fires burned low into glowing embers, while candles shortened quietly beside sleeping figures. No voices carried across the roads. No tools struck against stone or wood. Even animals moved slowly within the calm stillness surrounding the countryside. Along narrow village paths, frost thickened upon fences and rooftops, while lanterns near doorways dimmed one by one. Herb gardens rested beneath silver moonlight, while dried plants hanging indoors filled quiet homes with soft, earthy scents. The peaceful atmosphere spread naturally through every corner of medieval life during these final nighttime hours. The bells no longer sounded now. Their echoes had disappeared completely into the cold darkness beyond the sleeping land. Only silence remained beneath the pale sky, while distant stars shone quietly above empty roads and still countryside fields. Inside homes, inns, cottages, and castle rooms, tired villagers and travelers slept deeply after long days shaped by labor, weather, and simple routines repeated across generations. Their breathing remained slow and steady beneath heavy blankets, while warmth from fading fires lingered gently within the rooms. The medieval world rested peacefully beneath the silent midnight sky as cool air drifted softly across villages, forests, rivers, and quiet roads stretching into darkness. Every fire, every candle, every tired voice had settled gradually into stillness, while the final traces of distant bells disappeared softly into the calm and endless night.